Hello, my name is Firia Fatin from 2MA18. Today, I want to read a story from video Ugly Duckling. The Ugly Duckling. One day, a pair of ducks waited for their eggs to hatch. The duck father looked restless, as did the duck mother. Finally, the 4 eggs hatched first. The cute yellow feather ducklings released. Suddenly, the mother duck jerked with an egg that she incubated. When the egg hatched, the egg released a duckling, that very strange and ugly. Confused, the duck father quarreled with duck mother and separated. The duck mother took her 4 children to the river, followed by the ugly duckling. The mother duck scolded the ugly duckling and drew it away, but the ugly duckling continued to follow her. "Go away, ugly duckling, I'm not your mother," said the duck mother. The ugly duckling looked in the water and surprised to see his different face, and he confirmed it once. "I'm really not her child," the ugly duckling cried. He wanted to find his real mother. He saw little birds in the tree and came to them. Then the mother bird came with food, and the duckling ate it. When the mother bird saw him, she scolded him and drew him into the river. In the river, he saw a duck, but that did not a real duck. The ugly duckling cried on the edge of the river. From a distance, he saw 4 ducklings and their mother who had same face with him. The 4th duckling approached him and asked him to play. Then the mother duck called them. However, the ugly duckling who turned out, but the mother duck called him and invited him to join. Finally, the ugly duckling met his mother. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Octavia Ripka. I'm from 2MA18. I want to storytelling about the ugly duckling. Once upon a time, a mother duck sat on her eggs. She felt tired of sitting on them. She just wished the eggs would break out. Several days later, she got her wish. The eggs cracked and some cute little ducklings appeared. When the mother ducks brought the children to the pond's first swimming lesson, the half-gray ducklings splashed and fiddled about just as nicely as the other ducklings did. However, the other animals didn't agree. They hissed and made fun of him by day. Even his own sister and brothers were very unkind. "You're very ugly," they quaked. The little poor duckling was very unhappy. "I wish I looked like them," he thought to himself. One day, the ugly duckling ran away and did in pieces the sad duckling left alone. Throughout the cold and swan-white winter, finally the spring flowers began to bloom. While he was swimming the pond, he saw 3 like sweet swans swimming toward him. "Oh dear, these beautiful birds will love to pick me too," he said to himself. But the swan did not attack him. Instead, they swam around him and struck with their bills. As the ugly duckling bent his neck to speak to them, he saw his reflection in the water. He could not believe his eyes. "I'm not an ugly duckling, but I'm beautiful same," he exclaimed. He was very happy from that day on. He swam and played with his new friend and was happier than he had never been. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nama saya Bintang Kusuma Putra Triyarsa dari kelas 2MA18. Saya akan membacakan cerita dalam bahasa Inggris yang berjudul The Ugly Duckling. One day, the male duck was waiting for the female duck to incubate the egg and then hatch it, but one duck was of a different color, and they fought and they both left. After that, the different ducks were confused, so he was looking for what he should follow. Then he met a bird and was kicked out. And then the duck was sad and looked into the water. Then there was a white duck who saw it. Then the little duck met his mother and ended happily. Sekian cerita yang saya bacakan. Terima kasih.
There is a male duck who falls in love with a female duck. They have 4 brown children. A male duck is happy and immediately kisses the female duck. And not long, a female duck lays eggs. But there's something wrong with the new baby duck. Color of new baby duck is white and the sound is different too. A male duck are angry at female duck and they fight and spread. The new baby duck is confused and he follow a female duck. But a female duck get angry with the new baby duck and kick him. The new baby duck still follow a female duck, but a female duck and 4 kids are angry with him until the new baby duck fall into the river. They leave the new baby duck. When the new baby duck walking, he feels sad and crying. And there are 4 baby birds called the new baby duck. But mother bird angry and push the new baby duck. When the new baby duck walk, the new baby duck find a statue that looks like him. But the new baby duck fall into a river when the new baby duck jump on a statue. The new baby duck sad and cry again. And not long, there are a family duck who looks like the new baby duck. The new baby duck feels so happy because a family duck accepts him to be their family.
Once upon a time, there was a father and a mother duck. The mother duck had laid eggs, but they haven't hatched yet. They waited and then they finally hatched. But there was one egg that hasn't hatched yet. But when it did hatch, the duckling hatched with white feathers and a strange quack. The father and the mother and then argued. After they argued, they went their separate ways. The strange duckling then followed their mothers. But then he was denied and scolded by their mother because he was different. After that, the ugly duckling went into a bird's nest. But then he was also denied because he was different there. And finally, after walking and being sad, he met the same kind of bird as him, which is a goose. He wasn't a duck, he was a goose all along. He finally meets a mother goose, and then they lived happily ever after. Thank you.
Hilme så godt det var godt la vet na ilme flå had not get god elska ni fa gadilga soket se golfa du gadilga lak redar si redar fa se golfa du mi var silme flå se redar fa ngal ilme fred sa mi si bästa så damat sakit bipe saungil nga juga sakit sangat nanasi namak ni ingit mas tahi da dok ngut ngut di nemi so pa sequel fa makin da si tes sawi ne apreciate si di unal feel ne golfa fili that this sawi so ki bredam si di dos ne nalami that nila redal si hinal fit sawi so ki redal no si ya bilba redis no sawi ne redal si mof ne fit no so bad wala di dot si ngil ngadil ka na nagatir nim na kaya mukya malas.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And here I'm gonna tell a story about the ugly duck. Before I tell the story, let me introduce myself first. My name is Musman. I come from class 2M18 and my NPM was 10820871. So the ugly duck. Once upon a time, there was a couple of ducks living in the middle of each other. The female duck was already pregnant and going to get spawned. The male duck looked nervous because he knew that his wife would get spawned. And after waiting for too long, the time that I've been waiting for was come. The eggs are hatched. They both look pretty because of this. But there is something wrong here because there is a different egg. There is another egg under the female duck. So because of this, the male duck thought that his wife is cheated of him. So they both got involved and get invited. The child goes with the mom. So the different egg was a spawn. So the little swan followed the mother's duck, but got triggered by the duck's mom. So the little swan fell sad and trying to find his mom. So after he tried for his best, finally he got helpless. But when he gets surrendered to find his mom, the other spawn was heard his cries, so they came and bring him back home. So the little spawn goes back to his mom and the family.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nama saya Delia Fadila, NPM 108/2009. Saya akan membacakan cerita yang saya buat menggunakan simple past. Judulnya itu Ugly Duckling dari Walt Disney tahun 1939. A baby duckling searched for a family that will accept him. An expectant father duck is pacing by his mate's side. Suddenly their eggs began to hatch, giving birth to 4 new ducklings, but the 5th egg hatched, revealing a mismatched white one. And the father duck argued with his mate. He accused her for having an affair. The ugly duckling attempted to join the duck family, but they turned back on him. So he attempted to join a family of sparrows and even to befriend a wooden duck decoy. And again they all turned him down. He felt sorry for himself and cried until a mother swan and her cygnets approached him. He joined them and they accepted him. The mother duck realized what he is and what he has the potential to become. She invited him to come back, but he refused and turned his back on her as he proudly swims off with his new family, leaving her watching in shock. The end.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya Hafiz Arik Behaki dari kelas 2MA 18. Dan kali ini saya akan membacakan cerita yang berjudul The Ugly Duckling. An expectant father duck is pacing by his mate's side. Suddenly, their eggs began to hatch, much to his delight, giving birth to 4 new ducklings. But then a 5th egg hatches, revealing a mismatched white one, and the father duck argues with his mate over this. The ugly ducklings attempts to join the duck family, but they turn their backs on him. So he attempts to join a family of sparrow and even to befriend a wooden duck decoy, but they all turn him down. He feels sorry for himself and cries until a mother swan and her cygnets approach him. He joins them and they accept him. The mother duck and her ducklings realize what he is and what he has the potential to become. She invites him to come back to them, but he refuses and turns his back on her as he proudly swims off with his new family, leaving her watching in shock. Terima kasih, sekian dari saya. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The Ugly Duckling. There was
once a mother duck. This mother duck had no children yet, for none of her eggs had hatched. She was patiently day and night for her babies to hatch. One day, as she was sitting on her nest for eggs, the mother duck left something smooth beneath her. Filled with happiness, the mother duck was asked one by one her eggs hatched. She was so excited to lead her children to the pond and teach them all the ways of being a duck. Unfortunately for the mother duck, one egg was left not hatched. This egg was larger than the rest. This egg was the egg was broader than the rest. Her little ducks impatiently waited for 2 more days and nights. At the crack of dawn, on the third day of waiting, the large brown egg began to vibrate. It shook and shook as all of the ducks watched it away. Out from the large egg popped a large, strange-looking head of a bird that didn't look much like a duck. This baby was a little too long. His feathers were a little too scruffy, and his face was a little too ugly. But not less, the mother duck promised herself that she would love all her children the same. She led 4 children into the nearby pond and began to teach each duckling how to be a proper duck. She taught them how to quack. Each duckling quacked. All of the ducks in the pond stared at the ugly duckling and began to laugh. The mother duckling sadly took her little duckling over to different part of the pond. The other ducklings were giggling and making fun of the ugly. 2 nearby ducks swam by and pecked at the ugly duckling's feathers. One evening, as all of the ducks in the pond had gone to sleep, the ugly duckling decided that it was time for him to leave. He knew he was causing his mother distress, and he did not want to live in a place where felt unwanted, so the little ugly duck ran away. Then he waddled far away from the pond where he was born. He approached a new pond that was filled with a family of different ducks. These ducks were happily swimming and quacking. He advanced of the ducklings, who looked to be just a bit larger and older than ugly duckling. He entered the water and joined his new family. One day, as the swans were swimming, a man and his wife came strolling by with their children. The swan recognized this couple as the farmer and his wife. They approached the edge of the pond and began to feed the swans breadcrumbs. The farmer looked at the one old ugly duckling and said, "It looks like you found yourself. In a family, you are the most beautiful swan I have ever seen." For the rest of his days, the swan lived happily with his new swan family and was greeted often by the farmer and his family.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, nama saya Nurul Anissa dari kelas 2 MA 18 Fakultas Ilmu Komunikasi. Di video ini saya akan membacakan sebuah storytelling untuk mata kuliah bahasa Inggris. Story ini berjudul The Ugly Duckling. One day, in a forest, there was a mother duck waiting for her eggs to hatch. The eggs hatched and the duckling came out one by one. But there was one duckling that was different from the other duckling. Because she is different, mother ducks and the other ducks think she is ugly. The duckling, who was considered ugly, was also exploited by the other ducks and the mother ducks. Then, even this ugly duckling realized that she was different. Then she thought that she was so ugly until people shunned her. She went into the forest and met the chicks. She thought that she could be friends with them, but it turns out she was exploited too. And then she went to the river and found a toy that looked like a father of duck, until the toy turned creepy and she thought again she was so ugly that no one wanted her to. She was crying loudly. Then before long a swan and her ghostling her, and it turned out that the fairy duckling ugly was not a duck but the beautiful swan. After that she was finally able to be with her mother and real sibling. Sekian, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Aditya Al-Hafiz. I wanna tell you a story about the ugly duckling. The ugly duckling. Once upon a time lived a duck family. Day by day, the mother duck waited patiently for her babies to hatch. One day, the baby duck finally hatched, but the one egg was different. He was considered ugly by his own brother. After that, the mother of duck led her children into the nearby pond and began to teach how to be a proper duck. First, she taught them how to quack. Each duckling quacked, and the ugly duckling too, but the ugly duckling quacked in the different sound. The mother was so mad and threw him to the river. The ugly duckling so sad and cried. When he was sad, suddenly came a group of ducks. He was happy because he accepted by the duck as a family. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Halo, nama saya Marsha Muhammad Syarif dari kelas 2 MA 18 NPM 108-20416. Hari ini saya akan menceritakan sebuah kartun dari Disney yang berjudul Disney Silly Symphony The Ugly Duckling. Disney Silly Symphony The Ugly Duckling. Yesterday, I saw a video on YouTube that tells about the mother duck, where the duck father waits for the chicks to hatch, and the mother incubates the eggs. When the ducklings hatch, the mother duck is very happy, but there are eggs that have not hatched and are different from other eggs. The mother duck was confused and waited for the egg to hatch. When it hatched, it was not a duck but goose. Then that's where the two mother ducks quarreled over the confusion of the goose in the nest. In the end, the two mothers separated, and the ducklings went with the mother duck. They headed to the river for leave the duck father, but the goose followed the mother and ducklings. When the ducklings climb onto the mother duck's back, the goose also goes up. Then the mother duck makes a sound and is followed by the ducklings. But the goose has a voice that is not the same as the ducklings and mother ducks. There the goose were chased away by the mother duck and ducklings. Then he saw his reflection in the river and was surprised that it was different from the others. There he was sad and laughed on the way he saw some chicks in the nest and he went to the chicks. Then there is the mother bird who brings food for the chicks. Then the food is ate by the goose. The mother bird then snatched the food and drove the goose to leave the nest. Then he hid under a leaf in the river. He saw a toy in the shape of a duck or goose and thought it was its mother, but it turned out to be just a toy in the river. So he went and cried on the bank of the river. While he was crying, there came a flock of mother goose and their chicks to the crying goose. Then the goose was immediately amazed to see another type of goose similar to him. He made the same sound, he played together, and then the other goose returned to its mother. Then the goose was sad again, and the goose and mother goose came to him. He was embraced by the mother goose, and they gathered together. When they gathered and left the goose so the flock of mother.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Di sini saya akan menceritakan tentang the ugly duckling. The little duckling was very sad because he thought he was the ugliest among all his brothers and sisters. They wouldn't play with him and mock the poor ugly duckling. One day, he saw his reflection in the water and cried, "No one likes me, hugs. I'm so ugly." He decides to leave the house and go deep into the forest. Deep in the forest, he saw a hut where an old woman, a hen, and her cat lived. The duck stayed with them for some time, but he was not happy there and left immediately. When it was winter, the poor duck almost froze to death. A farmer took him home to his wife and children. The poor duckling was afraid of the farmer's children and ran away. The ugly duckling spends the winter in a swamp pond. Finally, spring arrived. One day, this duckling saw a beautiful swan swimming in the pond and fell in love with him. But then, he remembered how everyone was making fun of him and he looked down in shame. When he saw his own reflection in the water, he was astonished. He's not an ugly duckling anymore, but a handsome young swan. Now he knew why he looked so different from his brothers. "They're ducks by baby goose," he said to himself. He married a beautiful swan and lived happily ever after.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nama saya Muhammad Rehan Nurdiansyah dari kelas 2 MA 18. Saya ingin menceritakan film The Ugly Duckling. There was once a mother duck. This mother duck had no children yet, for none of her eggs had hatched. She waited patiently, day and night, for her babies to hatch. One day, as she was sitting on her nest of eggs, the mother duck felt something move beneath her. The baby duck finally hatched, but there's one more egg left. The egg was different. It was bigger from the others, and the egg was browner. Turns out the last baby duck was different from the rest. The last duck was born in white color, and this baby beak was a little too long. His feathers were a little too scruffy, and his face was a little too ugly. She led her children into the nearby pond and began to teach each duckling how to be a proper duck. She taught them how to quack. Each duckling quacked, quack, quack. The ugly duckling quacked, but he sounds different. The mother duckling sadly took her little ducklings over to a different part of the pond, and he cried. Then there came a group of duck approaching the cried duck, and the ugly duck was happy because he finally saw the duck that similar to him, that sound the same bit, but but he feels kinda sad. But then again, the new group of ducks calm him down and gather together with the same group of duck that has a similarity to him. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya Hari Irawan dari kelas 2 MA 18 Fakultas Ilmu Komunikasi, diberi tugas untuk menceritakan tentang video yang diberi oleh bapaknya dalam pakai bahasa Inggris. Beginilah ceritanya. Yesterday, I saw a video on YouTube that tells about the mother ducks, where the duck's father waits for the goose to hatch, and the mother incubates the eggs. When the duckling hatched, the mother and father of the ducks were very happy, but there were eggs that had not hatched and were different from other eggs. The mother and father of the duck were confused and waited for the egg to hatch. When it hatched, it was a goose. Then that's where the two ducks, mother and father, fought over the confusion that the goose was in the nest. In the end, the duck father and mother separated, and the ducklings went with their mother. They headed for the river to leave the duck father, but the goose followed the mother and other ducklings. When the duckling climbs onto the mother duck's back, the goose also goes up. Then the mother duck makes a sound and is followed by other ducklings, but the goose has a voice that is not the same as the duckling and mother duck. There the goose was driven away by the mother ducks and other ducklings. Then he saw his reflection in the river and was surprised that it was different from the others. There he was sad and laughed. On the way he saw some goose in the nest, and he went to the goose. Then there is the mother bird who brings food for the goose. Then the food is eaten by the goose. The mother bird then snatched the food and drove the goose to leave the nest. Then he hid under a leaf in the river. He saw a toy in the shape of a duck or goose and thought it was its mother, but it turned out to be just a toy in the river. So he went and cried on the bank of the river. While he was cried, there came a flock of mother geese and their goes to the cried goose. Then the goose was immediately amazed to see another type of goose similar to him. He made the same sound. He played together, and then the other goose returned to its mother. Then the goose was sad again, and the goose and mother goose came to him. He was embraced by the mother goose, and they gathered together. When they gathered and left, the goose saw the flock of the mother and the duckling that had cast him away. Then he still went with the group of the mother and the other goose. Cukup sekian, terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya bernama Muhammad Iksan dari kelas 2 MA 18 dengan MPM 10820412 akan menceritakan cerita saya, The Ugly Duckling. One day, the duck father was anxiously waiting for his children to hatch, and then all the eggs hatched, but the duck father was surprised because all the children were yellow, but there was one white one. They fought. Then the mother duck took all children to the river to swim. All the children climbed into his mother's back except for the goose, who was dropped because it had a different sound. He was left behind by the flock. He realized that he was very different. He'll feel sad. Soon, he met a flock of the chick and returned to the flock of the chick mother. The poor bird came along and was surprised and angry to see a goose run to the river until he saw a toy that resembled him. He thought it was his mother. He started playing with the toy. The toy accidentally hit him, and thinking that the toy also projected him, he felt hopeless until finally.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ranti Jayanti from 2MA18, and today I want to tell a story, and the name of the story is The Ugly Duckling. One day, there's a mother duck who sat quietly on her nest. In the nest were 5 beautiful eggs. She sat patiently waiting for the 5 eggs to hatch. The father duck was also waiting. At last, the mother duck jumped from the nest and stood waiting there with the father duck. One by one, the eggs cracked open, and out tumbled 4 tiny yellow ducklings. The mother and father kept waiting the nest, for the 5th and largest egg had not yet hatched. But soon 2 little feet broke through the shell, and then a head popped out to the top. It was a big white fuzzy head instead of a small yellow downy one. The 4 little yellow ducklings gathered around the big white and said he is different and ugly. Then they went with their mother down to the pond and left him all alone. The poor ugly duckling couldn't understand why nobody liked him. He also went down to the pond and looked into the water. There a strange and ugly face looked back at him. No wonder they don't like me, he thought sadly and began to cry. Suddenly in the water he saw 4 white fuzzy creatures that looked just like him. Then he looked up and saw the most beautiful white bird he had ever seen. The beautiful swan gathered him and folded her wing around the ugly duckling. Now he realized he is not a little duckling, but he is a little swan. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Bintang Putra from 2MA18. I want to tell a story of the ugly duckling. One day, there was a family of goose who were waiting for their duckling to hatch from the egg. When boredom came, the eggs began to hatch, but there was one egg that hatched a white duckling. The 2 parents of the goose fought because they were confused about where the duckling came from. Then, the duckling was abandoned by his family. The child only realized when he looked in the water. He realized the difference in himself. He cried, seeing his different self. For a while, he approached the bird nest happily, but he was chased away by the mother of the chicks. He fled to the lake. At the time of the lake, he met the wooden swan. With joy he climbed the wooden goose, but he was overwhelmed because he felt and wanted to be hit by the wooden swan. Then, in desperation, he climbed to a shore and sat down to rest. From a distance, there was a family of white swans who saw him sat alone. The swans approached the child and invited him to play and join his family. The child is very happy. Then the child looks at his old family. He proudly turns and swims happily with his new family.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Sukif Haman and I am from 2MA18. Here I will tell again the history of the ugly duck. One day in the forest, there lived family ducks. They did waited for a little ducks. The little ducks hided, but all disappoint the little ducks, because the little ducks different from his father and mother, and the mother kicked the little duck from his family. The little ducks alone, and the little ducks pretends being baby bird or baby eagle. But mom of the baby bird or baby eagle rejected the little ducks to follow until the baby duck meet a mother who likes him, and they swam together in the river. Okay, thank you from me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello, my name is Egy Ebenezer, and I will tell you a story about the ugly duckling. A duck father pays accompanies his pregnant wife by his wife's side. Suddenly, the mother duck eggs began to hatch. The father was very happy, gave birth to 4 little ducklings. But then a fifth egg hatches, revealing a mismatched white duck. The father argues with his mother about this. It was implied that the father accused the mother of having an affair. The ugly ducklings or white ducks tried to join the duck family, but they refused. So white ducks tried to join the bird family and even tried to befriend a duck-shaped doll, but they all refused. The duckling felt sorry for himself and cried until a female goose and her cubs approached him. He joined their family and they accept him. The mother duck and her duckling are surprised to find that white duck has found his real family and bid his farewell. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Dafa Akmal Pahrezi from 2MA 18. Today I wanna read a story about the ugly duckling story. The Ugly Duckling story. One day, the father duck was passing by his mate's side. Suddenly, their egg began to hatch. Much to his delight, gave birth to 4 ducklings, but a fifth egg hatched, revealed a mismatched one, and the father duck argued with his mate over. The ugly duckling attempted to join the duck family, but they turned back on him. So he attempted to join a family of sparrows and even to befriend a wooden duck decoy. But they turned him down. He felt sorry for himself and cried until a mother of swan and his child approached him. He joined them and they accepted him. The mother of swan and her ducklings realized what he is and what he has the potential to become. The mother duck, a yellow one, invited him again to come back to the family, but he refused and turned his back on her as he proudly swam off with his new family. Leave her watch in shock. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello, my name is Vanessa. I want to tell a story about the ugly duckling. One day there was a pair of ducks waiting for their eggs to hatch. Not long after the eggs hatched, there were 4 yellow ducklings. The male was very happy, but suddenly there was one egg that wanted to hatch too. But this egg was different from the others. It was a white duck. The pair of ducks quarreled because of the one duckling. They turned spirited. Then the mother duck went with her 4 kids to the river. The white ducklings followed them, but he was called and chased away by the duck mother, who seemed to not recognize him as one of her children. The white duckling was abandoned, and he was wandered alone. Then he saw the river, staring at the river water. He saw his reflection, which turned out to be different from the other. He realized. Then he cried, but his cry was heard by a flock of goose or swan. He was surprised to see their resemblance. It turned out that he was not a duck, but a goose. He eventually joined the rest of his flock and was loved by the mother of goose or swan.
Ugly Duckling. On a land long ago, a mama duck sat on her nest, waiting her eggs to hatch. At last, her eggs began to crack. One by one, yellow ducklings stepped out of their shells. There are 4 little ducklings. The papa duck was happy looking at their babies, and he went to kiss mama duck. When they were enjoying the time, something happened. There was a big egg left on the nest, and it's about to crack. The papa duck tried to knock, then the egg hatched. Came out the duckling with white color on his body. Mama duck thought it was weird. Then they went into a fight, and they chose their own ways. Mama duck with her babies get into the lake to cross the next land. On the way, Mama duck squeaking. Her babies follow to squeak. But the white duckling squeak sounds ugly. That's why Mama duck threw away the white duckling. After he got thrown away, his brother and his mama left him behind. He pulled himself up and walked away. On his way, he heard the sound of little bird chirping at him, and he walked to the top of the tree and joined to the group. Not long after, the mother bird coming with a worm in her beak, with the ugly duckling took it all for himself, and the mama bird became angry and ceased chasing for him. The ugly duckling managed to run away until he found a wooden duck. At first, he thought that this duck is his family, but he realized that this wooden duck is not his mother. He swam to the land and cried out his sadness. Suddenly, a mother swan with her 4 babies saw him, and the duckling felt happy to find his family. And finally, they swam to the other side of the lake.
Hello everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fasila Salita from 2MA18. I want to tell you a story about the ugly duckling. An expectant father duck is passing by his mate's side. Suddenly, their eggs begin to hatch, much to his delight, giving birth to 4 new ducklings. But then a 5th egg hatches. They are surprised because the duck isn't yellow but white, and the father duck argues with his mate over this. It is implied that he is accusing her of having an heifer. The ugly duckling attempts to join the duck family, but they turn their backs on him. So he attempts to join a family of sparrows and even to befriend a wooden duck decoy, but they all turn him down. He cries, look at his different self. He fled to the lake. At the time of the lake, he met the wooden swan with joy climbed the artificial goose. But he is overwhelmed because he fell and wants to be hit by the wooden swan. He felt sorry for himself and cried until a mother swan and her shakens approach him. He joins them and they escape him. And then the mother duck and her duckling realize what he is and what he has the potential to become. She invites him to come back to them, but he refuses and turns his back on her as he proudly swims off with his new family, leaving her watching in shock. And then the ugly duckling isn't an ugly ducky anymore. Now he is a beautiful swan. Thank you, bye.
Hello, my name is Tendra Putri dari 2018 and I will tell a story of the ugly duckling. There was once a mother duck. This mother duck had no children yet, for none of her eggs had hatched. She waited patiently day and night for her babies to hatch. One day, as she was sitting on her nest of eggs, the mother duck felt something move beneath her. Crack, crack, crack. Filled with happiness, the mother duck watched as one by one her eggs hatched. She was so excited to let her children to the pond and teach them all the ways of being duck. Unfortunately for the mother duck, one egg was left to hatch. This egg was larger than the rest. This egg was browner than the rest. Her little ducks impatiently waited for more 2 days and night. The big egg started to hatch, become a baby boy duck. This duck was much bigger than others, and he was not yellow at all. The ugly duckling quaked. All of the duck in the pond started all the ugly duckling and began to look. This one looks nothing like your others, one just. One evening, as all of duck in the pond had went to sleep, the ugly duckling decided that it was time for him to leave. He didn't want to live in a place where he felt unwanted. Many days and nights passed, and the ugly duckling never found a family that can accept him yet. The ugly duck cried by the river, and he saw other duck who looks like him, and a big duck mothers went, and they want to the ugly duck come with their family. And in the end, for the rest of his days, the ugly duck lived happily with his new swan family. So,
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, nama saya Ashifa Fuadri dari kelas 2 MA 18. Di sini saya akan menceritakan film pendek yang berjudul The Ugly Duckling. In numbers, the ugly duck lived alone through cold and snowy winter. When the ugly duck bowed his neck and talked to them, "I am not an ugly duck, will the egg hatch and make a sound? Peep, peep. But the largest egg is not hatched yet." A few days later, the bigger one hatched, and a big ugly duck came out. "You're ugly," they said. The ugly duck penetrated unhappy. One day, the ugly duck ran away and hid. Once upon a time, a mother duck incubating her egg. She felt tired sitting on top of the eggs. She hoped the egg had sown, and the hope is greater.
Hello, today I want to tell a story of the ugly duckling, but before that I would like to introduce myself. My name is Siti Badria, so let's begin. On a little farm lived a cute duck family. A mother duck sat quietly on her nest. In the nest were 5 beautiful eggs. She sat patiently waiting for the 5 eggs to hatch and produce 5 little ducklings. The father duck was also waiting, and he marched up and down beside the nest, wondering why it took so long for eggs to hatch. And at last, the mother duck quacked for joy. The eggs were rocking backwards and forward. She jumped from the nest and stood waiting there with the father duck. They watched anxiously as one by one the eggs cracked open and out tumbled 4 tiny yellow ducklings. They had bright little eyes and pretty little backs and tried to stand on their wibble little legs. The mother and father kept watching the nest for the 5th and large egg had not yet hatched. But soon the little feet broke through the shell, and then a head popped out of the top. It was a big, white, fuzzy head instead of a small yellow downy one. The duckling wriggled out of the cell and said, "Hong hong." "That certainly is a funny-looking duckling," said the father duck. "And why?" he said, "Hong hong," and the other said, "Quack quack." The 4 little yellow ducklings gathered around the big white on the and one and quack. "He's not like us. He's